real estate. I've been in the business for about 16 years, and I lead a team of 7.
Beautiful. Bari, go ahead.
I am Bari Levine. I am with App Properties, and I've been in the business for 16 years as well. And I lead the Bari and Elena group.
That is great. Colin, go ahead, my friend.
My name's Colin Hebson. I've been in real estate 20 long years. I'm with Dreamtown Realty, and we have a group called the Hebson team.
And then Stephany, and then Jodi.
Hi, my name is Stephany Oliveros Hallstein with CHI Group at Compass, and there's about 5 of us in our team, and I've been in the business for 17 years.
And Jodi, you are muted.
Yep, had to unmute. I'm Jodi Slutzky. I work at App Properties, been in the business for 15 years, and I run the Jodi Sells Chicago group with 3 other realtors.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So yeah, no, and I think, like I say, realtors get a lot of love. They work hard. And in my opinion, realtors make the economy go round. But what I've also known with realtors is they lean on businesses. They lean on lenders. They lean on attorneys. They lean on stagers. They lean on financial advisors. They lean on handyman people. It's kind of like they can't do their job and be successful on their own. So what I've done is I've invited 3 of our preferred partners who support our platform. And let me just say this, look, I know realtors, I get a lot of, I don't want to say undeserved recognition, but I get a lot of love from agents saying, hey, I love the magazine. Your last event was cool. Great, whatever. I will tell you right now, I literally am nothing. I cannot do anything without our partners. I don't have a job. My kids can't eat. Maybe that's a little bit of extreme, but because I'd figure stuff out. I'm pretty resourceful, but you guys know what I mean. So literally, Michael, Tammy, John, I cannot do what I do without you guys. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And just thank you for supporting and helping the cause for 2020. I cannot do it. So I'm going to divert ladies first. So Tammy, why don't you introduce yourself first, then we'll go Michael, and then John, and then we'll start jamming.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Tammy Hajjar Miller. I'm with the Federal Savings Bank, Senior Vice President. I'm on the lending side, been in the business just about 16 years. So I love the tenure on this call. And I have personal production, top producer. I have 5 people to help with personal production. And then I also have a team of 12 loan officers that I help mentor myself.
And I will vouch, Tammy runs a well-oiled, saying that Tammy runs a well-oiled machine is an understatement. So Michael, go ahead, my friend.
My name is Michael Mazek. I'm a real estate attorney, focusing in real estate transactions, real estate litigation. We do some estate planning, asset protection, landlord tenant work as well. I've been practicing since 2006, and I've been practicing under my own firm since 2009.
Beautiful. John, close us out, my friend.
Yeah, John Dickinson. I'm with Northwestern Mutual. I'm a financial advisor, financial planner. I've been in practice now for just under 14 years. Reason I synced up with the Andes, I actually work with a lot of the top real estate professionals and real estate teams in the Chicago and Illinois area. Work with a ton of lenders, work with a ton of attorneys, and I think there's just a lot of synergies in some of the stuff that we do, both on the business side, but personal side as it relates to financial planning. So very excited to be on the call today.
Cool. Well, and I appreciate everybody. So this is the part where I literally shut up. I have found if I talk more, the less value people get out of it. Scott is laughing because he knows that's true. He's like, Andy, you do need to be quiet. I remember, I think our second or third one of these live, I said that, and I'll give Greg Pekarsky a shout out. I said, I'm going to shut up now and let everybody talk. And Greg goes, he interrupts me and he goes, finally. So I will never forget that. It was hilarious. But before I do that, I do want to give, I don't really call it a plug. A lot of people don't know this. We realtors and partners reach out and say, hey, can I get the past issue? Where do you access it? It's online. It's a private publication, but we launched an app. Some people on this call might not know about this. In the summer, this was supposed to be a 2021 project. Is the screen share work okay right now? Can you guys see that okay? So if you're looking for past issues, past event videos, this is it. Get every issue on your phone. The app is called Digipub, DIGAPUB, and it's free. They'll probably start charging for it eventually, but it's currently in the test phases. So if there are bugs in it, email us, We know that that is intentionally designed. It's not perfect, but we want to know that so we can polish it up. So going into 2021, it's crisp and clean and perfect. So if you're curious about past issues, there it is. So this is the part now where I really will be quiet, and let's start jamming. So this is your guys' time. What does everybody want to talk about? The floor is open.
Well, I think I heard a question about open houses and how to do them virtually. So why don't we open up with what people have found there and what they have found success with?
So we've tried the virtual open houses and I don't really love them. We've found, and what I've heard though, is that the real meat of the virtual opens is not who attends when you do them, but keeping those posts, sharing them, promoting them on social and what have you, which we just haven't really done a lot of. So I'm probably not a good person to say they suck because I haven't really put on my full force, but a bunch of realtors and we all had listings at 525 Hawthorne, which this summer was really difficult to sell in and stuff was not moving. So we all kind of put our heads together. The building didn't allow open houses. So we did a whole virtual thing and we had done so much promotion and nobody came. So we were all very sad. So I don't know. I'm curious to hear if anybody's had real success with them and what have you done? What's the magic pill?
That was my question too. I also just don't really get so how long did you hold your open houses for, out of curiosity? And were you guys just live talking about the unit for 2 hours?
Yeah, so for we've done virtual open houses also. We love doing them for high-rise condos that don't allow the public open house. We've done 10 minutes for each platform where, we do a Google Meet for 10 minutes and then another 10 minutes on Facebook Live and then another 10 minutes on Instagram Live. And to, add to what Scott said, I think it's kind of getting the word out there, getting, I think the exposure for the property. I'm not sure completely if it was very, I would say, beneficial, and really reaching out the right audience right there, for them to be interested in the property. But I think it gets that attention and it gets the exposure that it needs. Is that what you guys are seeing?
I haven't done them, so.
I have a question. Has anyone received, after you've done a virtual open house and somebody may have attended online, contacted you after to see the property? Yep.
We did one right as quarantine began. We made the mistake. I think we did it for I think it was an hour. And I learned after that 30 minutes max, because that takes a lot to go through. And this buyer actually wound up writing an offer. Then they were crazy and we did not do a deal with them. We went to another buyer instead. But that was when it was still very new too. So we really haven't done too many since.
And I think the challenge with a virtual open house, are people really able to log in, right? Because on the MLS, you can only put maybe a Google Meet. I don't know what you use, Scott, but you can't put a personal page on Facebook, right? You can't put an Instagram link. So how do actually people see it as it's syndicated to the different websites? So I think that was the challenging part.
We've tried Facebook Live. I think we did 1 or 2 Instagram Lives, and we also did Zoom. But to your point, it's hard. There's not one source that connects all of them where you can just sit and broadcast. So you almost have to, I like where you said, almost 10 minutes on each platform. You almost have to kind of drop in and do a little bit of different piece. I think that's one of they're a little clunky right now.
Yeah.
But I also think too, we're the Midwest, we're a market where people want to see and they want to feel and they want to touch. It's real difficult to take a conservative real estate market, I think, like the Midwest, and I'm being very general here, and people not be able to see and feel and touch. Like when we bought our house in California, we didn't see it. We bought it. I mean, we went for the inspection, but we wrote an offer sight unseen. that's common there. That's common on some of the bigger coastal markets. That's not that common, I think, here. So I think there's that's the part I think there's a disconnect, and I think there's always going to be. I don't know how to, I don't know, like, how do we solve that?
As we go into like potentially another shelter in place, from the first time we went through it, what did you guys find to be the most successful way to show properties virtually, or not virtually, I guess, if people were still willing to go out? Obviously, you just did the showing, but for a lot of our listings, when people were not leaving the house, we were trying to get creative with how can we still show the properties, and you know, because there were still people who needed to sell, or people who didn't want others coming through their house. So what did you guys find to be the most successful when that all went down? And who knows, hopefully it doesn't again, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think, you know, like I know we all do Matterports right now, 3D tours, but for us, like we were picking a couple of listings that we do that on. But when COVID, you know, shelter in place hit, right? I think for all of us, it's now necessary, right? Every listing gets a floor plan, every listing gets a 3D tour, and every information that we can put out there, right, to just get people interested right away, without having to step foot on the property. So I think that's been very yeah, you know, it's definitely challenging. I agree.
We tried to really, I kind of liked it. We really vetted out anyone that we allowed to see the unit in person. We made them watch that Matterport tour, look at the floor plan, asked all the questions, saw pre-approval, so that if someone was coming in, they were legit ready to buy and had really scoped out the property. You know, the only thing I hate about Matterport is it gives so much information, which is good in this day and age, but then sometimes people eliminate it after looking at it, and you never even know that they saw it or why they eliminated it. And so you just sometimes have no feedback for your clients. So I go back and forth with it, but I think with everything we're going through, probably need it on almost every listing.
Something.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I agree. That's a good point. That you just, you know, you kind of might lose other people when you could have actually encouraged them to see it first before ruling it out, right? So, yeah.
Just to piggyback on Bari, we did a lot of the same things. We also started doing, we kind of fell off at one as the summer hit, but for every one of our properties, I was recording, or one of my team was recording, like a video walkthrough. And this was like on my phone. This was not sexy. This was not a professionally produced video. It was, okay, here we are. It was it was like leaning into the kitchen cabinets and slow panning across, so people could like slow pan of like the hardwood floors or the flooring or what have you, to give them a lot of those things to kind of to hit what you were saying is like, and we would make sure that they watched that video, because we didn't want somebody to come in for a showing and be like, oh, well, I didn't realize that there was A here, there was B here, right? Like we wanted to limit access. So we were doing these, they were like, some of them were like 10 minutes long, you know? So it was definitely like, you were watching it to get to see all the up close stuff, the stuff that the marketing photos wouldn't show you. And we had several instances where someone would say, you know what, I watched it and I didn't like it. I remember one where we went out on the balcony of this property, and there was like a grocery store next door, right next door to the building. And you could hear, when you're on the balcony, the heating units. And we had somebody that said, you know what, that's not going to work for us. So great. You know what, I'd rather you know that up front. And we're actually starting to get back to doing those now as we head into the new year, so that hopefully if it's not a fit up front, we know that we don't waste anybody's time and risk any exposure.
Yeah.
I saw some of those videos early on, and I remember watching it in one of your feeds that there was right away a prospective client that was interacting right away. It seemed like a really just great way, especially early on when there was so much concern about going into properties. Now things are a little bit different in terms of our understanding from a health standpoint, safety standpoint, as to, you know, physical contact with services. But yeah, I remember in one of those feeds I was watching, and you can kind of see someone was curious, asking questions, following along. It was really pretty creative.
I think Thanks, Mike. I should mention too that Mike is is our number one real estate attorney. We work together a lot. We actually share a birthday. Ironically, so we should probably mention that.
To be.
Very well.
I have,
What are you
I
guys
have a question
doing?
for.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Barry.
Oh, I was gonna ask Colin what you guys are doing differently from a development standpoint with everything going on, and how that's kind of, are you guys doing virtual walkthroughs, or like if it's, I guess if it's just based on plans, are you still getting it together? Are you doing Zoom meetings to sell, or what?
I mean, we do a lot of Zoom meetings. We just had a small project with Rehnquist in the West Loop, and we did a lot of Zoom meetings. But I'm also old school, and I really don't even know how to use MLS. So I really prefer to do everything in person if we can. I mean, the Zoom actually works. We've sold a few new construction condos at like Noretta, 15 Elizabeth, things like that off of Zoom calls. And Scott brought up a good point. People on the coast, those are international markets. So people have been selling off of videos for the last 15, 20 years. So they're used to that. But here in Chicago, it's kind of hard to adapt. But I think right now with the development, I think it's a little bit easier to sell off of Zoom because there's a little bit less of an emotional attachment to it. You know that you can look at the finishes and see a floor plan and know it's gonna be 2,200 square feet and know that it's gonna be white Carrara marble and white shaker style cabinets and 5-inch wide floors, things of that nature. But I think on a resale of like a home in Lincoln Park or things of that nature, it's a little more of, you want to get touchy and feel you in person for it. So I think it's a little more important for that, but the Zoom is really effective on the new construction development.
I have a follow-up for Colin too, right? Where are most of the buyers for your new construction coming from right now? Are they local or international or out of state?
Most of them are all local. Like I do not see any influx of anyone coming to Chicago, unfortunately, right now. It's a lot of locals shifting around, people that are still like, I'm going to stay in the city. I think there's a lot of too that people are like, it used to be like, I'm going to have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo that's 1,200 square feet. Then I have a kid. Then I move to Wilmette or Elmhurst. We see a lot now, people like buying duplex downs, like in the 600 block of Webster for 1.3 million instead of that big house. There's just some people that are still true city people that are staying here and buying that new construction. And they're willing to give up a little bit of square footage to be in the neighborhood they want to be.
Yeah.
That's interesting because you do hear a lot, either in the media or just sort of elsewhere, that there is sort of there's some movement from the city elsewhere, which I haven't necessarily seen on paper, but you certainly hear it.
I think people who had wanted or planned to move to the suburbs or out of state in the next 5 to 7 years are just doing it now.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Keeping the middle step from their 1,200 square foot condo to maybe like a smaller townhouse and then eventual suburban move, they're just skipping it. And
suburbs in different areas in Chicagoland to consider as well.
Yeah, Barry's right on. That's true. It just expedites all of that action and getting people to move. And everyone's kicking themselves in the ass right now because if they would have done it 2 years ago, they would have gotten about a 20% lower buy.
Urban markets
So,
are crazy.
like, be careful what you wish for.
Well, and I mentioned earlier that about 6 weeks ago, especially when we were hearing so much of that, everyone's leaving the city. I'm like, not really. So I actually went back on every one of our sellers and I looked back up 2017 through this year. And what I found is for our clients, the folks that were doing the I need more space move, right, which would be upsizing, we saw 11% more going to the suburbs this year as opposed to the last 2 years. So yes, a little bit more, but not this like flight that we keep hearing about,
It's not for the reasons that people are saying. I feel like people are talking about a mass exodus because the city is unsafe or people just don't want to live here. I don't think those are the reasons that people are moving. I just think it's the space and it was going to happen eventually anyways, more so than anything else. So.
Well, and it's opportunity too. If you think about it, look at where the interest rates are. If I'm upsizing, right? If I'm going from, let's say, a $500,000 house to $1 million house, and I can get an interest rate between 2.5 and 3, versus if I did that move 2 years ago, or I do that move 2 years from now, and that rate, think about the tens of thousands of dollars you're saving in interest. And I think a lot of people are real. they're finally listening to what we've been saying for years about how to, maybe you only bought your place 2 years ago, and maybe you're barely going to take your equity out just because the market hasn't appreciated enough. But if you're going to pay $50,000 on a new purchase, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, so what we've learned also, it's like, part of the search right now is to add the suburbs, but then the city people, those that really want to continue to live in the city, end up going back and like, okay, let's change that plan, and we're not gonna move to the suburbs. So it's just added more options and opportunities out there, but we've seen people continue to, just increase their square footage here, or even, do their own conversions, right? From a multi-unit to a single family home. I've been doing a lot of those type of advisory role as well for clients. It's a little bit more involved, but it's, it's a very interesting process for them. So welcome back, John. We lost you for a second. I have a question for everyone in terms of like, I know our best source of, business is our sphere. And what has changed for everyone? And, maybe I want to kind of hear from you also, Jodi, because I know we've been in the business for almost the same years, right? What has changed for you guys, and how you reached out to your sphere, or also in addition to that, what's your second best source of business for this year?
Thankfully, a lot of my business has been referral and has been a lot of the same clients for 10 plus years. So I still don't do a lot of prospecting, and I have a lot of continued business from those clients. They're either consistently sending referrals over, or we're always doing something with one of their properties in some way or another. So, this year, and especially we were just talking about people moving to the suburbs or the city, it's been moving some of my clients from their smaller house in the city to the suburbs. But my last 4 buyers were people I placed in places in the last 3 to 5 years that just needed more space and actually stayed in the city and wanted bigger properties. And then I think most of you know on the call, I have a huge rental side of the business. So, not just this year, but over the last couple of years, we've been focusing on selling a lot of those rental properties off. So, it's been selling some of those properties, buying some new ones, or just kind of, changing the course of the way that client wants to go. And that's pretty much what I focus most of my business on.
How's the rental market?
Yeah.
Horrible. Completely horrible. The worst I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would compare it probably to 2010, but it actually might be just crossing over to be worse than that, because we've dropped every property probably $250 to $300 in price. We're lucky if we get one showing every couple of weeks. I just rented one yesterday. It's been on since July. It's probably had 3 showings since July.
Maybe like West Loop area.
Yeah, so I have a lot in the West Loop. I have a lot in like River North, South Loop, all the areas that people do not necessarily need to live right now because they're not working downtown. And this most recent kind of shutdown with all the restaurants closing now, that was really the only thing we still had down here over the summer, was a lot of dining, and people were still excited about going out. And now it's just pretty desolate around here 7 days a week. So I think the next couple of months here, it's going to be very hard for us to get anything sold or rented. So
Rentals have been, oh my gosh. Yeah, I agree with Jodi. I've never seen it this bad. It's been so difficult. We've got a lot of clients. I'd actually be curious to know, Jodi, too, since you do a lot of rentals, what else are you doing? We've had a lot of clients doing incentives similar to what the buildings are doing, 1, 2, trying to get someone to go to 3 months free rent on like a yearly, and then adjusting that net effective rent price just to drop it down. But inventory for rent is the most challenging part. Matt Engel and I were at a showing last night, and he was saying like, in like high rise, I think in South Loop, he was like, if you looked at like stuff, between like 1,500 and 1,800, whatever, there was a year's supply of inventory. So I feel like where rental used to be a little bit easier, we're really having to focus a lot more energy on them, Same thing.
Yeah, we haven't been doing too many incentives because it's hard to do on a condo, 1 month's rent, 2 months rent without just decreasing the price. Because most people are just searching online and they're looking at the price first before they're even going to the comments to see 1 month free. So we have been doing exactly that, pretty much lowering, factoring that in and lowering the price to what we would necessarily rent it for. But, people come in and they immediately want to negotiate on that. I mean, my first question every time I show a property now is, what are you going to do for me? And, my clients really aren't fighting back on anything. I mean, I had someone yesterday, we're in the middle of November. She said, I can't start until December 27th and I don't want to sign more than 12 months. So she's going to end on the end of the year next year. My client was like, done, just get the lease signed. I want to know someone's going to be in there. So.
Yeah, and with rental rates dropping, I don't know if you guys, we haven't seen multi-units really drop their prices. Is that what you guys are seeing out there too, right?
Depends on the neighborhood.
So the Logan, Avondale, they're all still maintaining their prices, right? Even though we've seen, a lot of changes in rental rates, like you said. I have a question for Tammy, right? Tammy, I've heard that forbearances are down, way down from, March, April, May. And what's your forecast? What do you think is going to happen in the next, couple of months? Or are we going to see a wave of REOs in 2022? I know we're kind of there's usually we're well sort of behind here in Illinois, right? We've got more laws, right, for evictions and stuff like that. So what are your thoughts about it?
So I think 90-day delinquencies are down, and which does make sense. And then you have 30-day delinquencies that have increased a short amount, but very little. I think really the opportunity is that, yes, the pandemic has been a disruptor in many ways, but the reality is still 85% of Americans are employed. And so they took advantage of some needed to take advantage of the forbearance and just push off. And they really started to learn more. I think one of the best things about this pandemic and this disruption is consumer financial education is finally on the rise, and they're interested more in what does a servicer do and what does that mean to them, and what does a forbearance truly mean, right? It's a deferment, and is it all due at the same time? But people are certainly, as far as REOs, I mean, there's always a cycle of them, right? I hear kind of chatter in the financial markets, maybe that's coming 2022, 2023. Interest rates are still super low, to Scott's earlier comment. I always tell people when they ask me, how are interest rates going to do? And I'm like, well, my crystal ball is in the shop. So I don't know when I get to pick it up, but money right now is on sale. And I think someone made the comment earlier, when you look at buying real estate, what does an interest rate do for you? Well, 1% increase or decrease in interest rate is an increase in buying power by 10% or a decrease in buying power by 10%. That's the qualifier. So the opportunity now is to go buy at money that's less, right? Because money just costs less. And that's not even including the interest paid over term. So I actually have a question for Michael, because how is this pandemic and this disruption is speeding up the technology from the closing experience? And so from the legal side, how are closings, I guess it's kind of a two-pronged question, because for Michael, how are closings different for you, going more hybrid and kind of technology, maybe remote notary type? And then for the real estate professionals, how are you adding to the closing experience? Because many of us aren't there at the closing table anymore. So how are you offsetting the celebratory part of it, right? So it's kind of a two-pronged question. So Michael, I thought you could start.
Yeah, that's a great question. I do a lot of litigation where everything's adversarial, a lot of real estate transactions. I want the client to have, an experience. They're buying their first home. This is pretty important. And so from a legal standpoint, we try to make sure that, everything is in order. And right now, we're getting back to where we were earlier, where there's a bit more restrictions on who can attend the closing, who title companies want to be in a closing. So, and all of us have, you know, been in and out of closing rooms. Title companies generally are there's a lot of traffic in and out of title companies. There's contractors that come in, sign lien waivers. And so for the most part, the technology piece has been really incredible, because in March, the state allowed for notarization via electronic means. So I know in March and April, we were doing a lot of closings where we would do a Zoom call. And if the client is in the state of Illinois and I'm in the state of Illinois and I watch the client sign the documents, I can go pick up those originals, notarize them, bring them to the title company. And so many title companies are working with clients in that regard. And so sometimes they're, you know, I've had clients who have tested positive, or have a spouse who's tested positive, and they can't go to the closing. So the technology piece has enabled us to be able to continue closings for the state to, you know, continue economically, and for these closings.
Do you think it's going to continue down this road? Because now that we've opened this up and this opportunity, you know, and there's these hybrids, right? And lenders now are all in a position where almost all our docs are electronically approved, and then the remote online notary is done at the closing table. So do you think this continues? And again, I'm curious to hear about the realtor's perspective on how does that change the celebration point of closing?
I suspect that the notarization via electronic means will stay in some capacity. But I think ultimately title companies are going to want people, and many lenders will want people to physically sign documents in a title company office to make sure that the note and mortgage are validly signed and can be upheld in court. I think that'll shift back a little bit. But some of the other pieces, you know, that the rest of the folks can kind of talk a little bit about how that's helped or how that should change.
Yeah, as a real estate professional, and I hear this a lot from clients, they love the convenience and the efficiency of this process. And I really hope it continues, actually. In terms of celebration, it's kind of sad not to be there, right? We're used to like attending closings. For us, we already have this in our process before, where we mail out our gifts, right? We don't bring them at closing. We set up a, what's that?
Right. What do you get them? What do you mail?
Oh, I use a loop and tie, and then so they can kind of pick their gift. Or, you know, there's some that I would do like an additional touch, right? And pick from a list of gifts that's a little bit more personalized, and a little bit more, customized, right? So, but I think, it's definitely a lot more check-ins, right? After the closing, and to continue to have that emotional connection with the transaction, because it's really different.
It definitely makes the walkthrough pretty important. I know in some situations, the walkthrough is sort of the celebration. In fact, I've gone to some walkthroughs and we've taken the loan package and we've signed it there. And that makes it feel a little bit, more celebratory and more, normal, although in a different way. But at least they're in the home, they get to celebrate in their new home.
I'll jump in. We've kind of made the walkthrough a little bit more important because we can't go to close. For about the last 2 years, I have a little, this little like branded toolkit that I bring to people as kind of their first closing gift, if you will. And we would always bring it to the closing. And it's just like, it's all branded, like, tape measure, like we put a roll of toilet paper, some hand sanitizer, a little candle, like some snacks and stuff in there. It's everything is packed and you're going to show up to your house and you have nothing kit. And so that has begun, so now that's even more important. And whereas for my buyers, a lot of times I would go to the closing, but my team would do the walkthrough. Now I'm going to the walkthroughs because to me, that's now the new closing. And giving them that. So that's like their first gift. I mean, we do a post-closing gift once they're moved in as well. But I think that's become more important with me actually giving that into their hands as well. So treating the walkthrough more like the closing, because that's the only time we're going to see them.
I actually have a question for John. So you must get this question. Come on, man. You're in financial markets, right? What do you believe our markets are going to look like kind of moving forward with, new leadership at the helm from the POTUS standpoint, and just where the market has been climbing kind of, with COVID developments and this vaccine. Where do you see 2021, and where do you see opportunity with kind of, because you talk to so many of us in the real estate industry, where do you see that opportunity in real estate?
I appreciate you asking that question, Tammy. I've been kind of slamming my calendar the last 2 weeks with client conversations around that similar topic. So a couple weeks ago, we had I had 2 separate meetings. It was a Zoom call with thousands of advisors across the country with our chief investment officer and our chief investment strategist. And one was prior to the election, not knowing what was going to happen, and one was post-election. The one prior to the election basically shared 4 different outcomes of what could happen, and then gave economic forecast to each one of those things. What we think will happen with the election, and again, who knows? We think that there'll be a presidential switch. We think that the Republicans will maintain control of the Senate, and we know that the Democrats will maintain control of the House. And so if we've learned anything over the last 20 years, and again, we all vary in age here, we've learned that when there is a blue or red president and a blue or red Senate, and those aren't the same, it's really, really, really hard to get anything pushed through to bill. And so when Trump initiated the 2017 tax law changes, that had varying impacts on different businesses and corporations, and it ultimately kind of freed up cash and saved money for corporations, which was good for the economy. Fast forward to today, Biden's going to have a really hard time to convince the American public that during the headwinds of a pandemic that should change. But he's also, even if he could, it'd be really, really hard to get through McConnell and all the Republicans in the Senate. So what does that all mean? Focusing forward, we don't anticipate a ton of change in this growth that the economy has built. There are tons of opportunities. So what we're telling clients is, if you have money that you're looking to invest or plan with, but you have a 2 to 3 year runway, be cautious of your entry point. But if we have clients that have a 10, 20 year runway, like a lot of my clients who are in their 30s and 40s, now's as good a time as ever. What we don't want to do is miss out, like a lot of clients were fearful in April and May. Oh my gosh, the market's just rebounded. We think that it's done. They've got to fall again. Well, they missed out on 25% upward momentum. In your world, money is continuing to be cheap. I don't have the crystal ball. It's in my garage too. But money, we don't anticipate any huge shifts and changes in how cheap money is. I know me personally, I'm actually going through a refinance right now after watching it and monitoring it all year. But what a lot of our clients in the real estate market are doing they're using this opportunity to kind of reset, identify what's going to happen next year. And they're actually, when they're putting together their business plans, they're actually looking at, okay, what things do I need to be reviewing? Do I have all my insurances in order? Do I have my SEP funded? Am I meeting with my accountant and my financial advisor to determine what I should be doing differently with my money this year? Maybe this year's a good opportunity to fund the kids' college accounts or do some other tax planning strategies that we help clients do all the time. So in an over-caffeinated answer to your question, hopefully that answered at least some of it.
Well, I think it's an opportunity to get organized, right? And
Totally.
It's slowing us all down financially. It definitely is getting us to look at, what did we miss, making sure wills and power of attorneys are put into place, and any other type of estate planning as well.
I've done more planning this year with my real estate clients because you're not driving clients around to 6 different places. You're not going downtown from the suburbs to go sit on a closing. As much as that's fun, we're building efficiencies. And with that, we have a lot of time to do important things like financial planning, like your estate planning, like wills and all that fun stuff. So it's an opportunity, especially as we get closer to the end of the year. Look at everything that we're doing with our finances and see if there's any opportunities we can be taking advantage of.
I'm curious, Scott, you're growing your team. You said you've had the best year ever, and kind of transitioning us back to the realtors is, how are you proactively seeking out getting new business and younger clientele? No, I mean, everyone every second of the day is getting, more experience and more seasoned, however you want to call it, right? I'm 46 years young. I don't want to say old, but the reality is we're all transitioning to kind of next levels. but how are you staying relevant? I'm kind of curious on everyone's answer. How are we staying relevant to a younger buyer group? And, first-time home buyers is at least 30% of every annual marketplace. So I'm curious, like Scott, and then maybe we can round robin on that.
Yeah. Staying relevant. So we're trying to do a lot more video. That's a key. We've done a little bit over the years. That's going to be a big focus for us next year, is doing a lot more videos and I mean professional videos, not my little I'm walking around, with my phone videos. Although we're going to do those too. And one of the new team members that we took on this year, one of our new agents, is younger. He's 26, 27. So he's, I think he naturally will bring that in, but we're just trying to, I don't know that we're trying to go after any specific demographic that way. I think it just kind of happens, referrals. We're still, our number one source is still our sphere and our network and referral based, and past clients. We really, have been increasing our energy. You talk about expanding, we've been increasing a lot of what we're doing in both of our farm neighborhoods to drive our business up there. And as we've expanded, it really, one of the reasons we're now at 4 agents versus 3 is our scheduling coordinator actually got licensed and wants to move into, and just is moving into sales this month. So we would have been still at me plus 3. Well, we're now me plus 4 because Jenny wanted to make a move. So it's kind of been interesting to kind of see that growth pattern, and I would hope that it just kind of continues. I mean, I'm 42 years young. I like that. I'm going to use that. So I definitely am starting to feel my age a little bit more when it comes to those younger folks. But we also do a fair bit, like Jodi mentioned earlier, we do a lot of rentals, and a lot of our rental clients eventually become home buyers. And that's another thing we're focusing on into 2021 is how can we better educate and prepare those folks to maybe move into a home ownership situation in the next year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years. So that's what we're doing.
So for me, I'm on TikTok. No, just kidding. But yeah, talking about learning tons of platforms, right? We've this year has accelerated the learning curve here, and going deep, right? Going deeper on Instagram, going deeper on there's just so many new things, right? Reels, what else? Stories. And so I'm lucky that all of my team members are all millennials. So I'm leaning towards them and asking them, hey, what fun cooking class did you attend, this time, right? So example, a pie giveaway we're going to do, next week it came from the idea that, she took one of our team members took a cooking class from this baker, right? So I'm trying to really depend on a lot of them to learn all these new things, right? And of course, learning from each other, from other agents. This is a very competitive industry, and we're all trying to be relevant as well. And it's a lot of learning this year for sure.
A lot of the people that I work with, about a third of my clients are millennials, 35 and younger, and they actually have adapted to this whole virtual, not holding hands, not being there present in the room as a little bit better than some of my older clients. I think one of the things I'm running into, actually, and maybe this is recency bias with what's happened over the last few weeks, is I'm finding a lot of millennials, really more younger millennials, like the 28 to 32 demographic, they think they kind of got everything figured out, right? They got their online app that can do all their tradings on Acorns. They want to do their mortgage on their own because they think they're gonna save money than using a professional. They want to go get the Redfin agent. I know nobody punched me in the face. To use that so they can avoid the commissions that they pay. Also, I'm finding a lot of that. Can you guys speak to? Is that something that maybe is just recency bias with me, or is that something that is a threat to the market?
So I think in absence of value, people default to price. That's my overall, and a huge paradigm shift I've made over the last year and a half in my own personal business is to education, right? Is better education. What's a differentiating factor? Just knowing my ideal client, speaking to it, and then I really spend time with people and what's the difference, going through options, making sure they understand their numbers, making sure they understand, I have a lot of clients who'll say to me, well, I found my property, my realtor didn't. And I said, I think you missed the point. The realtor, yeah, you probably will find your own property. But the number one job a realtor has is to mitigate the risk from contract to close and everything that can go wrong in between. So that's what you need the professional for. You can go find any Yahoo to be a financial planner too. Sure, Acorns can do it off your phone, not a problem. I don't know what kind of insight they're going to have. Is the acorn going to grow like a tree in your head of insight and education? So education has been the biggest thing that I've seen, has been the differentiator. And I would say all the top producers on here, that's how we figure it out. You just figure out how to differentiate, how we get better. But it's for sure been through deeper conversations. I think Stephany said that, deeper conversations.
I love that line that you used, Tammy. The line I always tell clients is, your app on your phone, or they're never going to tell you no, that you shouldn't. They're never going to help you mitigate that. They're going to be order takers, and they're going to do whatever you want, but they're never going to say, hey, don't do that. That's a bad decision. They're always going to take your money, even if it's a wrong decision.
I think it's just setting the expectation of what value you actually bring to the table, which is different than what it was a couple years ago. So, I mean, I set the expectation like, hey, on the MLS, and that's maybe another topic for another day, but how many of you are using Zenlist? No? Okay.
Our firm, I'll jump in. Our firm just has some partnership with them, but it's another, I'm like, oh, another thing, really? Do we need another? Yeah. I'm like, I need to pay for another service for no. Mm-mm.
Well, the thing with Redfin or sites like that is like their website is so easy to use. So like buyers just use it, and then they don't get that who they're meeting is not the listing agent. So a lot of my buyers feel like they're saving me time by just doing it themselves, and they don't really understand how it all works. So Zenlist we've been looking into because it's like something that is very user friendly compared to the MLS. But anyways, I set the expectation like, you're going to get properties from me once a day from the MLS. You're set up on whatever search you have going on, and setting that expectation that they probably are going to find the property first, but to send it to me, because I'll tell you more information about it and give you my professional opinion, because I can tell you probably what it looks like on the inside, or, oh, my client lives on the top floor and like they're having a huge special assessment, or, just added value. And then pointing out that you can still find some off-market properties as well, just from being in the industry. And then, of course, what Tammy said is the hand-holding from contract to close, and what John said about just, is this a good decision? Like, do you want to be on a fourth floor walk-up when you're having twins in a month? Not the best idea.
I think also too, being in front of your clients all the time, like over the next 2 months is a really good time. And if you can't be face-to-face, having coffees, breakfast, and lunches, do like actual FaceTime calls. And just if you're in front of people all the time and showing your value by just calling up saying, hey, it's been a rough year. Remember that condo I sold you 4 years ago? They're going to be less likely to go get a Redfin agent. No offense to any Redfin agents on this call, or go directly through Zillow or something of that nature. And I think another important thing too is, as a real estate agents, we add a lot of value. If someone's looking at buying a condo on the 1200 block of Diversey, and I'm doing the showing with them, I can tell them it was built 18 years ago. That builder sucked. This split face block on the side, you got to be careful of it if it's not sealed. Do you see where that effervescence on the block? This is things that, and this is offense to Redfin agents, that they usually don't have the knowledge to, or will be able to point out. So I think there's a lot of value to be had, whether you're using a full service mortgage broker or life insurance or a real estate agent, especially real estate agents.
Tell us how you really feel, Colin. Can you please?
Well, it's a jam session, right?
I love to keep these light. It's great. And I think it was Barry, to your point. I mean, this is one of my minimal points that I'll chime in. It's like, anybody can look on the MLS or an app and find the home, but it's kind of like, oh yeah, I can get to Mount Everest, to the base of the mountain. It's right there. It's a mountain. It's huge. It's right in front of your face, but who's going to help you summit the mountain to the top? Who's your guide? So I mean, that analogy just sort of came to mind. It's kind of like, well, duh, it's a house, you're going to find it, but yeah, who gets you from contract to close? I think, Tammy, it was to you without, with mitigating the loss. So I'd love to hear everybody else. This is a great topic. So I'd love to hear everybody chime in.
Yeah, Barry, you mentioned a good point where it's not necessarily where we're ignoring the fact that some of this technology exists. It's acknowledging it, but then adding your value so you can do something in concert. And at a certain point, the technology is just evolving so rapidly that just about everything could be automated, right? When we do estate planning, there's websites where you can download a will for $99 or whatever. All of that's available, but ultimately you provide value alongside of the technology. And so, for next year, we've put in some plans for, estate planning, asset protection, things where we can automate some parts of the process, but also make it clear that you're not interacting with a robot. This is an attorney that you're speaking with, and that we have experience and insight that perhaps an app doesn't have, let's say. And the same thing in the real estate world, there is a push to make sure that, things are a little bit more automated, but there's still so much value in making sure that you have the information and experience there to translate in the transaction.
Well, in addition to, you guys mentioned about buyers finding their properties online, I think it's the same for sellers too, right? They can see estimates, they can see all kinds of different valuations, right, on their properties, but they still, pretty much seek out our opinion and our professional opinion on navigating not just the pricing strategy, but also, the next steps, right? And like you mentioned, Tammy, mitigating the risk, right? And getting you from point A to point B to Z, right? And I think that's definitely what we provide, right? That overall experience and the experience that we have, we're sharing with them, and giving them that good experience for their transaction. So yeah.
I want to chime in with a question for everybody, and this can be for actually everybody. It may be a little bit more geared toward realtors, but what are you guys, as you do your 2021 business plans, what are you taking off? Like, what are you getting rid of and saying that's not working anymore, and what are you adding in? And that could be, new marketing avenues, that could be a change in your structure, that could be adding team members, deleting team members. Tell me what you guys are doing for 2021.
I like that. Let's call 5-minute warning, and we'll kind of round robin with that. But before we do so, I do need a screenshot from everybody. So Scott and we got to fix our hair real quick. Okay, looks good, man. Sweet. But so a smile, and don't be like my kids, like actually smile and hold it for like 4 or 5 seconds. Don't smile for a millisecond and then stop. So I think we can nail this on the first try. So when I say 3, then hold it for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3. I think we nailed it. Hold on. If I can just do this in one. Scott, your eyes were closed. Say 1, and then remember the question, and then we can wrap up with that. 1, 2, 3. All right. Let me see it. Everybody looks good. We'll wrap up with that. That's a great stopping point. So yeah, how are we planning for 2021?
I'll kick it off. So more video and more creative ways to stay in front of just clients. I transitioned all my pre-approvals to video over a year ago, and that helped me tremendously. But now it's milestone videos to educate what's the next step. It's videos afterwards. I'm using videos to celebrate their closings because I can't be there. Funny, they won't let the money in. I actually threatened at a closing and I got into one of them. But I'm doing more and more videos and just more client interaction as much as possible.
The only thing, I'm sorry, so sorry. The only thing we're changing is we're shifting our marketing efforts from experiences to tangible gifts. We no longer can, take our clients to Cubs games and takes our clients golfing as much as we want. So we're trying to stay relevant each quarter with our top clients, sending them just tokens of appreciation.
I would say more technology, definitely in 2021, kind of doing things differently than we've done things the last 15 years for the most part, and appealing to the younger buyers and the younger people out there that are all technology driven. So.
Be
For us,
incorporated. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What I was going to say is we're using, we've sort of started here in the fall, but we're just using technology to kind of keep people updated as to where we are in a transaction. I think that's one of the questions we get a lot on the legal side is, here's, we have a contract now, this is attorney review, inspection, contingency, mortgage contingency. We're using technology now a little bit differently. We have a portal that we've just started where people who just want to know where we are in the context of the transaction, they can check in on that at any time. They can log in and see where we are and what's been done.
For us, adding more automation and certainly personal touch offline and online, right? Like you said, John, there's going to be less events. So how do we actually reach out to them through maybe, gifting or just providing support however way we can. I've had clients that have are transitioning with their jobs, and I've connected them with several people, right? So those types of touches, and certainly videos like Tammy said, it's very important, and definitely more partnerships next year with our industry. With the industry, pretty much. Mm-hmm.
So I believe that we're going to do, we got to up our social media game because I'm old and I don't understand any of this. I just went on Facebook last week for the first time, and it's like the Wizard of Oz or something. Like people pop in. It's really weird. But anyways,
hey, Colin, I have to ask you this. I have to ask, did this motivate you? This jam session motivate you to get on Facebook?
No, actually, someone said to me last week, like, you better get on Facebook. And I'm like, and it's so confusing. I don't even know how to scroll through and do it, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. I tell you. But I think in this day and age, I think, next summer, it's going to be like the roaring 20s in Chicago. It's going to be warm. People are going to be buying houses. People are going to be out eating. It's going to be insane. So I think all of us setting up our business is the right thing to do. But for me, I'm a firm believer that the guy who makes the most phone calls and has the most contacts for coffee and everything else is the guy that wins the game and gets, and you keep your clients, and they're not going to go anywhere else. So I'm just going to keep making phone calls, Facebook, and up my bus benches and up my Instagram game and see where it goes.
I love it. Every time I drive by one of Colin's bus benches, I think I take a picture and just text it to you. So.
Oh, they're really bad. We got a new batch coming. Get ready.
That's fine. Barry, go ahead. I'm curious to hear what you think.
We're kind of doing everything that you all mentioned. We're adding a new member to the team. We're revamping roles of our admin. Our listing coordinator, she's been into the social media game. So we stepped that up a notch this year and are going to do more next year and try to incorporate videos, like you said, which is why I had so many questions on videos, and I get a new iPhone so I could take the best videos because I can't stand how bad a lot of the videos are, and that's why I haven't done them. Because I've always been a firm believer in, like, I want to show my property in the best light, and the videos from your iPhone, we did it too during the pandemic. We did these videos with a program called Hyperlapse, and they weren't great, but they needed to be done. But I wish there was a better a way to do better videos in an easier platform besides getting a professional in every single time. So I'm going to look into that and just kind of continue to manage our team and what Stephany and a lot of you were saying about gifting, and if someone has a baby, instead of maybe just a phone call or a note, maybe also send a gift, and try to think through some of those items too, because we can't do the client parties or the school seminars or a lot of the things we used to do to get together. Maybe we'll look into the Zoom get-togethers for some of these things like school seminars, but so far we haven't done that. I haven't really figured out how to, like you guys were saying, get people on all sorts of platforms and really market those videos or Zoom calls or things like that so people tune in. So still figuring it all out, but interesting to hear all of your perspectives and see that you guys are figuring it out too.
That's why we do these. Did everybody get a chance? I want to be sensitive to time, but I think we're missing one, right? Did everybody go? I think everybody's good. Yeah. Great. Well, hey, thanks for jamming with us. I'm gonna cut the live feed. Our next one is we're going dark next week in honor of Thanksgiving, and our next one will be in its regularly scheduled programming time, which is December 1st, I believe. It's the day after my birthday. My birthday is November 30th. So 9:15 a.m. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And I'm gonna stop the live feed right now. Okay, we're not live anymore. Seriously, guys, thanks so much. I think when the ones we've done these in the past, if you're interested in getting on another one after the first of the year, let me know. We can shuffle the deck, get some different realtors and partners on, but I'm going to let everybody get to the rest of their day. I will send this link out to the Facebook feed and also the YouTube link as well. So, you know, you can always go on it, comment on it. If you share the feed to you guys know how Facebook works, except Colin.
No, I don't.
If you share it to your feed or stream it, it gets more eyeballs on it, just gains more traction. I mean, that's really all it is. So if you want to do that, feel free. But I appreciate everybody's time. Sorry I ran a few minutes over, and we'll talk to you soon.
Happy
Thanks, buddy.
Thanksgiving,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Happy
everybody.
Thanksgiving. Bye.
Adios.